Not taking your work extremely seriously is a form of self-sabotage. You're so afraid of fail, you convince yourself failure doesn't matter, and in doing so, manifest the mediocrity you have been afraid of in the first place. Why did you tweet that?
I think it's kind of a curse of the internet work age that we received this idea from the startup world of move fast and break things, lean startup, just try, just put stuff out there. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. You move on to the next thing. And that got corrupted, where originally it meant try making small changes on things. And if the small changes don't work, that's fine, right? You fix it, you try something else, and you slowly make it better over time. But it got kind of warped into, oh, you try doing this business, or try writing a book, or try doing any of these things, and try to do them quickly and see if they work. And if they don't, that's fine. You failed, right? Like, yay, failure, then move on to the next thing. And I think that for a lot of types of work, that's actually a really, really harmful attitude to have, especially, and I wrote it, I posted that because of writing. I was thinking about writing, where I feel like I see a lot of people talking about writing a book or writing online. It's like, okay, you'll try to like do it really quickly and see how it goes, and you can always invest more time in it after. And I really feel like no, in a lot of disciplines, if you want to do well in them, writing especially, you have to actually take it really, really seriously and really, really try and be willing to fail in a big way. Because if you take it lightly so that you can fail in a small way, you're almost guaranteed to make something pretty mediocre. Mm-hmm. The only way you make something really, really good is if you are willing to fail in a big way too. And Peter Thiel actually did a good job of highlighting this difference in 0 to 1. Because I think it gets forgotten sometimes that 0 to 1 was, in some parts, a response to the lean startup, where he was saying that the lean startup methodology only gets us little incremental improvements on things that already exist. It doesn't get us SpaceX. It doesn't get us, Varda making drugs in space, right? Like it doesn't get these crazy 0 to 1 companies. And so if you want to do something meaningful and significant, you have to be willing to take one of these big shots and really, really take it super seriously. And I felt like one of my failure modes since I started trying to work for myself in college in 2013. So yeah, like 10 years ago, my main failure mode has been not taking things seriously enough, taking them a little bit lightly, trying to get a quick win. If I don't get a quick win, quit and try something else. And even when I do get a quick win, think, oh, cool, right? Like I won this little game, and now let's go on and play the next game. And over the last few years, really over the last year and a half, I've really tried to reorient myself around what's something I could take extremely seriously, try to do extremely well, become extremely good at, so that over 20, 30, 40 years, it can pay off in a big way, instead of taking things lightly and trying to get these quick 2 to 3 year wins. And that's been a whole change in life philosophy, work philosophy, and challenging to do, really hard to do, but ultimately very empowering and very satisfying.
I find that absolutely fascinating, because when I think about your superpowers of watching you on the internet for the last 5 years or so, it always feels like you have this ability to leverage your luck raiser, so like your followers on Twitter or people in your newsletter, to your benefit.
Yeah.
To then move fast on something. We talked about the Rome course a bit ago, and then have like a sweet outcome and then move on.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was a superpower of yours, but this sounds like you're moving in a completely different direction.
It's kind of like it's like a monkey's paw. It is a superpower. I am very good at that. And I can, like everything that's going on right now, I could totally go make a how to write with AI course, and I could probably make a lot of money off of it.
Yeah.
But I would get bored of it in a year. I would quit, and then I would have to find another one of those things. And in the short term, that feels great. But if you spend 10 years on 5 little 2-year projects, you're sort of treading water. The tide is rising because you're maybe getting more followers and that base is growing, but people will fall off who originally came in for, I mean, shit, I got started on the internet writing about how to last longer in bed.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
for sure.
Those readers are long gone. I mean, some of them aren't. Every now and then I still get an email about it, which I love. But it's like, I've just gone through so many of these iterations in that time period that I really, after crypto was the ultimate version of that, because I saw it. I said, I'm going to get completely immersed in this. I'm going to go all in, try to get the best outcome possible. Had this good outcome, and then just felt really empty and bored is the wrong word, drained, exhausted, tired out. And I just couldn't imagine trying to keep doing that 2-year playbook anymore. It just wasn't serving me. And it was pretty clear that if I kept chasing that, it was going to not work out eventually. Like, one of them was eventually not going to work. And then, there was going to be all this like lost time and money. And I mean, the crypto stuff almost went a lot worse than it did. And so it was really like, okay, I need to figure out what I could actually focus on for 10 years while still accepting that I do have this big hit of energy, then boredom, nature. And it turns out that writing books is actually a great marriage of the two, because you can build a career as an author by publishing many books, but each individual book is kind of a 1 to 2 year project that involves intense periods of focus followed by rest and leaving it be. So it's really the perfect of the two, with the big caveat that there's no fast money in books. Like, it's one of the slowest really careers to have a chance at making a good amount of money. You look at somebody like Brandon Sanderson, who's one of the highest paid authors in the world right now, but
I have no idea who that is.
Oh my God. Okay. This is I love this. I love telling this to people who are not in, and I'm not really in the fantasy world. I like sci-fi a lot more, but Brandon Sanderson is one of the highest paid fantasy writers in the world right now. And for reference, this guy probably makes north of 10 million a year off of all of his fantasy books. He has his own publishing company. He publishes 2 to 4 books a year. He did the largest Kickstarter of all time. He did a Kickstarter for 4 of his books, and he raised $44 million.
Holy shit. For what? What were they buying?
They were buying 4 books.
And not just that much volume.
That many people.
Holy
that
shit.
many people pre-ordered those 4 books that he made $44 million. And he self-published them.
Let's fucking go.
Right? And you've never heard of this guy.
Yeah.
Right? But, and this is the amazing thing, right? Sanderson, he has that career now, but he started trying to get into writing books when he was in his late teens. He wrote 7 or 10 novels before one eventually got picked up almost a decade later. And then his first book, he only made something like $14,000 that first year off of it. So you've got this 10-year, wait to get started, and then it starts and you make $15K a year. And, now he does incredible, but just that lag time, it was the polar opposite of everything that I had looked for in work before.
Yeah.
Like SEO stuff, it was quick wins. And then how do we monetize this stuff as quickly as possible? Building an agency can be really fast money if you have the experience, because you can, I decided to start the agency, and then I emailed a few people who I thought might need help, and it did like 20K in revenue the first month, right? Like, it's quick. The Rome course, right? Or like the courses in general, quick money. Crypto stuff, quick money. But all of those things also died really quickly.
Yeah.
The quicker you can get money in something, the quicker it can go away, because someone else will come in and eat your lunch. But if you spend 10, 20, 30 years building an author career, I mean, you look at Michael Crichton, right? Like, Jurassic Park came out in the 70s, and they're still making movies about it.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe the 90s? I mean, it was a while ago. Like, Dune has been made into 3 movies. He published that in the 70s, 60s. Like,
60s.
These things have incredible longevity that you don't get from launching courses online. And so that was sort of what I realized was the monkey's paw of having this short-term focus, was I could get these quick-term wins, but then they would go away really quickly, and then I'd have to go try to find another one. And that just gets exhausting, and I don't think it's a great way to build a career over 30 years. And I really think that a lot of people like myself who are terminally online, terminally on Twitter, we're always seeing these short-term opportunities and chasing them and focusing on them, and maybe getting those quick wins, but missing out on the time, missing out on using that time for longer term projects. And so this has been one of my like quiet growing crusades, is to get people to like stop wasting time writing Twitter threads and LinkedIn threads, because most of the people who follow you for your threads are not going to buy shit from you, right? Like in a few cases, sure, you might be able to get a good book deal out of it, but it's kind of useless, and the algorithm might change next month and then that's gone. 8 years ago, it was like, make a Facebook page. Nobody uses fucking Facebook pages anymore. Like, all this stuff is going away. But if you put that energy into a book, people still might be reading that book in 30 years.
For sure.
You just have to have that patience to make it happen. So it's really been like a total reorientation for me, being willing to let the quick wins go. And like, dude, I basically I made 90% less money than normal for the last year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
But I was willing to do that to really just go fully focused on getting as good as possible at writing, to get this career on a strong foot, and then have it turn into something I think really magical over a much longer term.
If you think back to that moment where you felt like you made the decision, I don't know if there was like a black and white, like this Nat existed and this Nat existed.
Yeah.
What kind of mental work did you do to delve into that depth? Especially if you go from like the dopamine, like crypto world.
Yeah.
How do you then dive into, I'm gonna do slow, long, fun, dumb shit, which would be like what our friend Paul said. But
yeah. Dude, honestly, like, it's funny, we were talking about the Bad Therapy book right before we started, but as the crypto stuff picked up, and I wanted to include this in the book and just didn't have space for it, it started...
Crypto Confidential. You can get it July 9th. Let's go. We'll probably drop around that day. So
hell yeah.
We'll buy 10 copies for anybody who emails me first. Let's go.
Hell yeah. Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
As that got crazier and the pressure on me kept increasing, I was just losing it. And so I started going to therapy. And it was interesting because I think maybe my therapist knew that I sort of knew what I needed to do, but I had to like just talk it out myself, and that I wouldn't listen to somebody else telling me it. And so it was basically that I would just go and talk to myself for an hour. He would hardly ever interrupt or ask a question or do anything, which at the start I was like, isn't it your job to like kind of guide this and like help me? But as I did more of it, I realized that literally just like sitting and talking for an hour was working through a lot of these things. And towards the climax of the crypto journey, I was so in the mindset of I need to make as much money as possible. I've, hit this level of success. I can go bigger. I can make more. And it was having this strain on my mental health, my relationship, like all of these things. And I started interviewing with VC firms. I started reaching out to them and talking to them and saying like, hey, I want to join a VC firm. This is clearly the next level. I think I can do it really well. I'd like built some name in the space. Teams were reaching out to me. It was like, this is perfect. I'm going to make so much money. And I was just talking to him one day. Well, I was talking to myself in his room one day, and I was like, if I don't get off right now, like I might not come back.
For sure.
Yeah. And in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, if I have failed at being a good crypto VC, I literally will not care at all.
Yeah.
That would not make me sad. I would lose no sleep. But if I woke up in 20 years and realized I had never published all these books that I wanted to write, and I had never actually like taken the writing seriously, that would be like life-ending regret that it could build into. It would just feel like such a tragedy that I never actually stopped and went and did that thing. And I kind of had this story for a long time. I mean, really, like since 2016. 2016 was the first time I tried to 2017 was the first time I tried to like take writing really seriously. But I was living in New York City. I had no money, and said, okay, I got to put that on hold and got to go make money because like I need to pay rent, right? And at that point it was legitimate. And then I was kind of good at it. And somewhere along the way, I just like forgot that was why I started doing the agency and like doing the courses and getting into crypto and doing all this stuff, I was like, wait, I don't actually love doing any of these things. They've always been this means to this end. And then I totally forgot that this end is what like got me in here in the first place.
Yeah.
So
Bro, I had the exact same fucking journey.
Yeah.
To a T. Yeah. It was like, okay, I need to like learn how to, learn how to be an entrepreneur so I can podcast.
Yeah.
And I'll build companies in podcasting so I can podcast. And then it got to like, at the end of last year, I was like, I'm not really podcasting that much anymore. Like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm doing this to be able to podcast.
Yeah.
And so this year I'm podcasting.
Hell yeah, dude. I like, and I realized that through the whole crypto thing, like I was only writing about crypto. I wasn't writing about all this other stuff. And I basically said, I was like, I have to just leave. I can't just like put it on the back burner and do a little bit of it and write. Like there's this quote that I always think of from, it's like a Buffett quote. Of course it's a Buffett quote, or maybe Munger, where it's like, make a list of the 10 things that you could be the best at in your life, or the 10 things you could succeed at the most, and rank them, like the biggest, most important whatever one, the second biggest, most important one. He's like, and then take numbers 2 through 10 and put them on your wall, because those are the things that you're never ever allowed to do. Because that's how you fail.
That's the trap.
That's the trap. That's the shadow career. That's the detour, the side quest that you end up regretting. Because I mean, it's almost worse if you're good at things.
For sure. It's way worse. It is way worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you'll get that dopamine, you'll get those hits, and you'll be like, I'm fucking smart. I'm like getting all these accolades. People are respecting me, but you're forgetting the whole time that you actually want to go do this other thing.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you're making money, there's all this guilt around it, right? Like, well, I should be grateful that I'm making money and that I'm successful and that I have these cool opportunities. Like, so many other people would love to have these opportunities, whatnot. But at the end of the day, if like you're not happy and not fulfilled by it, it kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So,
dude, I've always sit like when I'm questioning my decisions, and I go, okay, I'm probably gonna die alone. Not that I'm gonna die without people around me. But the journey of existence to non-existence is probably gonna be solo at that moment, no matter who is around me. And I do feel like I'm investing a lot in my relationships, so there are people around me. But and when I sit there and it's like, okay, knowing that I was gonna die alone, like what would be the scariest thing? And this is one of the reasons, I was working in big pharma before I moved down here to Austin, and I was just like, holy fuck, not only am I going to die alone if I work this for the rest of my life, but I'll probably kill myself before I get to the end of this. Like, there's literally, I remember I was in negotiations around a new job opportunity, like, what job do you want to do? And I'm like, oh, I'd love to do like corporate strategy. That's interesting to me. Like, oh, cool. That you can do that in like 20 years if you get on this path. And I was like, that sounds so fucking awful.
Yeah.
And so I had to like make a huge jump. Yeah. And now we're getting to a point right now where I'm trying to figure out how to balance this. And so within the agency that I own and run, like I don't handle the majority of our clients. I only handle one of our clients. Yeah. And now that client and I are working on how I transition out when the baby comes to test, to then allow it to transition out completely. And then the guy who was running it before will run it completely. It sounds like, I don't think we've ever talked about this, but when you finished up the SEO agency, I know you had hired like a new CEO, but did you like give up it, or did you still have like money coming out from that?
No, so I had hired my first hire, incredible woman, Nora, who really grew the whole agency with me. And she was the perfect foil because she was patient and systems focused and really good at managing people and all these things that I could be good at, but I don't have the patience for sure, and don't want to do. Whereas I could like run off and be crazy on Twitter and be doing deals and doing sales and like handle all that side of it. And yeah, when I wanted to step out, we basically spent that year figuring out how to just transition the agency to her running it. She took over as CEO, and I kept an ownership stake for the first year and a half, but I didn't take any money out. They just, I let them keep, because like to be totally honest, I mean, agencies aren't big equity businesses.
For sure.
Hard to sell. And I wanted to quit doing SEO so badly that I was just happy if everyone could keep their jobs.
Okay.
Like my biggest fear was that me quitting is going to mean that these like 10 people don't have an income anymore.
Yeah.
And I really didn't care about getting to keep getting checks from it. Like I probably could have juiced it and like been more hands-on and managed and like tried to get, a couple $100K or something, per year is like, but I didn't care.
Mm.
I just wanted
Just
to
didn't
stop.
want to think about it anymore.
And I wanted her to be like fully invested and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you know, she after a year and a half of me still having the majority stake, and her running it, she came and she was like, you know, what if we just bought you out?
Yeah.
Because like, you know, she's like, I don't think you want to be very involved, and that's fine, but I want to feel like I can fully run with it. And I was like, yes. I was like, literally just write down a number and I'll say yes to it.
Yeah.
And like she came back with one proposal, and I actually like pushed for it to be like less or more spaced out, to put like less financial pressure on them, because I was like, I just want this to be fine without me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I've had very similar conversations of this year as we're transitioning, where I was just like, do you want to just buy me out? Like,
Yeah.
I really just don't want to have to think about this anymore.
Yeah.
Because every time I have to context switch from what I consider art or beauty or things that I'm in love with and living a life that I've wanted to design versus having to deal with like little small bullshit, it feels like every single time a new little small bullshit things, it's almost like I'm working out underwater when I'm doing podcasting or doing this stuff, and then every time I have to go like lift this tiny little pebble, I'm on like Mars, and the gravity is just so much more intense.
Yeah, it's really true. Like that's been one of my big focuses for the last year and a half. Once I basically made this decision in mid-late 2022. It started in 2022 and then really locked it in last year, where I was like, I'm just writing. Like, writing is the thing. And I'll let myself have this one other like fun project where I'm, you know, I have this like writing app, and that's like, but it always has to be secondary. That's just like when I want to break from writing and want to like play with code, you know, that's there, but I can never hire any employees. I can never turn that into a business. Like, the writing is the thing. And so that's so clarifying, because any annoyance, obligation, task, thing, whatever, I can just look at and be like, is this going to make me a Brandon Sanderson in 10 years? No, then I'm going to find a way to get it off my plate. I'm going to find a way to make sure that this does not take up any mental space in the future, because especially for writing, I mean, especially for anything creative, half of the work is done when you're not doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's all of that subconscious processing time. It's like, and I mean, there's so much guilt around that, like realizing that literally half of my workday needed to be spent just walking in circles in a park or something.
For sure, dude. 100%.
Right? And letting that guilt go is just like, it is so hard, especially if you're in the like the Twitter like mania, whatever. Like, you need to be go, go, go. There's all these opportunities around you. But I think long term, it's like, that's how the real magic, the real art ends up happening.
Yeah. Was there, either while reading your entire life or something you've written yourself, where you felt awe?
Yes. I mean, I use this example. This is the one that I always come back to, and people will rightfully make fun of me for it. But Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. Because
I worked for Eli Lilly, by the way.
Really?
Which is the company that's in it. And also my family's all professional tennis players. So it's a weird, I haven't read that book ever, but I know that part's funny between Eli Lilly and that.
Yeah. You know, what's really special about that book is, you know, DFW is arguably like one of the best writers to ever live. And he pretty clearly wrote Infinite Jest to try to make something good enough for himself. And he's so brutally honest throughout the book about his emotions, told through the characters, just the honesty about addiction and depression and self-sabotage and, you know, not feeling good enough and all of these things. And, you know, that's what makes that book so powerful. It is the, you know, every author is showing like some of themselves through their book, but that one is like, it's like there's no glass. It is just, this is exactly what it feels like to be thinking about killing yourself, right? This is exactly what it feels like to be in the deepest throes of withdrawal and willing to, you know, scratch your eyes out to get another hit of a drug. Like, it's so obvious that he put everything into it, and it's just incredible for that reason. And you have to feel awe reading some of these passages, because it's like, I have never heard another human share their inner experience that way. And I mean, sadly, what makes all of that even more powerful is the fact that he did kill himself.
Yeah.
because he he wrote one of the best books of all time. The book is partially about a struggling artist trying to make something called Infinite Jest, who eventually kills himself because his work isn't good enough. And then in real life, DFW kills himself.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that adds this whole other dimension of truth to the story in just such an incredibly powerful way that, you know, you can just like, and it's crazy because it's actually better if you read it a second time, and I assume like a third and fourth and fifth time, because you really, really feel him through the characters, and it's incredible for that. And also why it's super hard to get through.
For sure.
Yeah.
It feels like he was trying to pull Camus and like write the myth of Sisyphus, and then he just lost where Camus kept going.
Maybe I don't know the story. I've read the myth of Sisyphus. Yeah.
If you read like the prologue, he says like, if I can't convince myself that there's meaning in suffering somewhere, and life's more than just suffering, then I will kill myself by the end of this book. Is what Camus writes
Gotta go
at the
reread it.
prologue.
Yeah.
It's like an intro.
Yeah.
And then he writes it.
Yeah, I mean, I think about that line all the time. You know, you must imagine Sisyphus. Is it laughing or joyful?
I think it's
or happy.
I think it's laughing.
Is it? I think it's laughing, right? That's what I always imagine in my head.
Or smiling.
Or smiling.
I think it's smiling.
It's one of those.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
they all kind of work.
Yeah,
They're just all these little things. I mean, literally last night.
It was in French, so the translation could be.
It could be. Yeah, there could be multiple translations. Literally last night, you know, our older daughter is 2.5, and so there's like often toys everywhere, but every night I try to put all the toys back in the toy cabinet and even try to organize them a little bit and arrange them. And half the time when I do it, I'm like, you must imagine Sisyphus happy. Like, this is my boulder trying to like reclaim this chaos at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's like that. And that's part of why I personally feel so called to writing is like, yes, it's a great way to teach something. It's a great way to entertain. It's a great way to do all these things. But I think really most importantly, it's one of the clearest lenses we have into the inner worlds of other people. And like good writing makes people feel like they're not alone. And we all walk around feeling like we're alone in our feelings, especially like our dark feelings all the time. But a really good writer can let you know like, okay, I'm not the only one who thinks these things.
Yo, thank you guys so much for your time and attention. I hope you enjoyed this small taste of the podcast. This is now going into the paid portion, and I hope that you liked what you got and you feel inclined to head to skmp.supercast.com or click the link that's in the description. You can listen to this full episode and many others, and I just want to leave you with an idea that nothing is free. In every single transaction, there is a buyer and a seller. And if you're not paying for something, I would be careful because you might just be that which is being sold.